Live. Whoa. Let's clear my voice a little
Tyler's
bit.
dead already.
Damn. Here it is. We're live. This is episode 10. It's been a little while since the last episode. Just been really busy. Apologize for that, but now we're back. Lots of pro league action been going on. We're gonna fill you guys in on sort of what we thought going into Division A, what happened at Division A for the first 2 week stint of that, and then what we think about Division B going in. Our thoughts on pro league. How certain teams are progressing or not doing well, things like that. Ask you guys for your opinions, and just have some great conversation about competitive Call of Duty that we all love. Am I right, Joe?
We love those.
We love that.
Yeah, we really do.
COD. We love COD.
Yeah. So I think, because the goal was to do Mondays, and then Tyler had to come out. I had the Pro League Challenge, so I think these next couple weeks we should be good. And then once Tyler figures out his schedule. But yeah, guys, we are, as he said, super busy right now. But I texted Tyler on the way home from work. I was like, probably be a good time to do an episode. He's like, you're right.
We set it up. So, here we are.
So we set this up. But yeah, I think. So what do you want to talk about first?
I guess we could just throw up the sort of recap from our last episode. Basically, we'll throw up the graphic of all of the divisions on both sides and sort of give, I guess, a little preview of what we thought going into Division A, and then we can get into what actually happened, I guess is the best approach.
Yeah, okay. So Division A, I think we talked about it, super top-heavy. I think when you discuss Division A versus Division B, like when you look at Division B, like because there's teams like EG, there's teams like Envy, even Unilat and Epsilon, they have experience, what you're going to potentially get out of them or what they could. There's a lot more upset potential, right?
For sure.
Like I know tuning into week 1 Division A, I know the fact that, Vitality, they go up against Rise match 1. 99% of us are going to vote Rise, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
That's just a match that it's super tough for Vitality. We're not really sure what they're made of yet. And that's just what it is. Where you go and you look at sort of, match number 1 of this week, and you say Envy versus FaZe. Now, everybody is going to probably, I bet 90% would probably say FaZe wins this just based off past results.
Right.
It's too hard to say not. They've been the better team. Replays has really stepped it up. But that game 1 or match 1, Slasher could just take over the entire match and win then the game, right? Like that is I think the potential of Division B, but from what we saw with Division A, at any point, I think TK Optic, Rise, maybe not Echo now, but going into Division A, they were in the talking point, and Red Reserve could be top 5, top 4 of the top 6 teams in the world at any point. So that was my thoughts. I was super excited about Division A because I knew the high quality gameplay of those top 5 teams. It did kind of suck though. You weren't too sure with Era what you were going to get. Mindfreak, they did have a 9-12 finish, but as we've said, they've always had a slow finish. And then Vitality. I mean, you kind of knew that they were going to get better with time, but it was going to be a rough start for them.
Definitely. I think going into especially Division A, we definitely thought it was going to be Red Reserve and Echo Fox fighting for that 4-5 sort of slot to see who will be able to qualify for playoffs. And sort of everything kind of went as planned in terms of Division A went. We saw some big matches break down, especially early on the first week. The first couple of matches were some pretty much juggernaut matchups. I wasn't really sure what to think of Ricky's team that ended up becoming Era, previous Doom Clan. So I thought, they would sort of be on the bottom half along with Mindfreak and Vitality. I figured a lot of teams would show some dramatic change from week to week, especially being together, in 2 people in apartments, being in the same location. You should be able to get a lot better practice is my whole point, especially for people like Mindfreak and Vitality that aren't able to get as consistent practice. We brought this up a lot where I don't know if you still share that same sentiment about Mindfreak, but I feel like if Mindfreak lived in NA, it wouldn't be surprising if there would be like a consistent top 8 team. They obviously have this talent. There's times where Dens, Shocks, really all of them shine through when they're playing against top competition, but it takes them a little while to get rolling. And every time they go back to Australia, it seems to like reset. So hopefully they can
Yeah.
bounce back. But we can, I don't know, you can share your thoughts on that too.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I even think as little as playing like the national circuit teams in North America, right? Like, even those
Yeah,
teams,
true.
I think would probably be better practice than, most Australian teams.
Oh,
Like,
definitely. Yeah.
as bad as it, like guys like Complexity, Enigma Six, Next Threat. There's all these different teams. I think just. I don't. It's never been a talent thing. It's a play style thing, and you've seen Mindfreak talk about that before. Like, yeah, I mean, to the point now, like we've had 2 weeks of Division A. You've seen their improvements. They talked about really the big puzzle piece that was missing or that just didn't fit in their play style was Buzzo. We weren't setting him up in the right positions, and that changed. And it made a huge impact. So I think just even getting used to the different style, the international style, helped them a ton.
Yep.
But as we said, we knew this was going to happen, right? Like it sucks that it took them a week, but at the end of the second week, I think they could sort of raise their heads high. They played extremely well.
Right.
But yeah, I guess so. Let's go into week one. So after week one, you had Optic 3-0, you had Rise 3-1, TK 3-1, TK 2 or Echo Fox 2-1, Red Reserve 2-2, Arrow 1-3, and then Mindfreak and Vitality 0-3. Going through matches, I mean, I think the first big match we could probably talk about was Optic TK. I think this really set the tone for Optic. You could probably speak to this as much as me, but Optic came into this driven, pissed off. From what I've seen, like just not happy. They were the first team scrimming most days, and to be honest with you, I think guys like Krim really helped this because of the type of communicator that he is. When they were on stage, they were the louder team most of the time because of him. Like they just brought a certain energy, which remember when we talked last year, with the Pro League, while there is a bit of a different format, you're in a studio, it's a studio environment, it's different. It's like playing at home, but that energy between the teams, like the difference, you can just tell who wants it more when you're inside that studio.
For sure.
And that match number one for Optic meant a hell of a lot for those guys.
Oh, for sure. It's sort of like an ego battle in a sense of what team's going to show up. They put NOLA behind them at that moment, and who's going to establish themselves as the top team in that current situation. So I thought, obviously I have insight to how we prepared for these bigger matches, and the mindset going into it was we have to set the precedent early. Like this is the match where we scare people. We come out pissed and we play just very, very enthusiastic. Call of Duty is the best way to put it. Get on the stage and give a lot of energy. Show that you care, because I feel like a lot of the times where Optic has bad performances, it's just lackluster. They overlook their opponent. They think they're just going to cruise by. They don't have to warm up. They don't need a good scrim beforehand, and that's when they start to fall behind. When they're on point, no one's going to beat them, and we just need to make sure we are on point all the time, especially in this game, which seems to be extremely series to series, just the way that Hardpoint rolls out a lot of the time, or respawns in general in this game. But I thought that first matchup was extremely huge for our confidence as a whole as a team. So that was a huge match going into that one.
Yeah, I think too for TK, this was for all four of these guys, this was their first LAN league, right? Like Accuracy wasn't in it last year, Theory wasn't, Kenny obviously wasn't, and Chino wasn't. Now they have played in a league. A lot of those guys did participate in the online league, but as you said, the past two times those guys were on a main stage, or two of the biggest times, they were winning titles, right? So this was a kind of a new experience for these guys, right? It's a room, you see the talent desk, you see your monitor, like that's it. So I think that was a bit of a wake-up call. They don't like losing, right? I think right after that match, their mindset sort of changed. Okay, sometimes like we saw that with Optic, in the past, sometimes it's just a wake-up call. Okay, people are gunning for us. Like we're considered the best team in the world right now. And as we said, it is much harder to stay at the top than it is to get there. And that's the reason why. Every time somebody plays you, they want to upset you because that creates a storyline, that creates a story. I mean, that's the way it was with Optic. You beat Optic, it was, oh, this team beat Optic. Like, here we go. Like, all eyes on them this event. Now it's the same for TK. As soon as you beat them, people are going to say, all right, how is this team going to perform? So I think it was just a bit of a wake-up call for TK. Hello, you're at the Pro League, right? Like, so again, there's a lot of matches. They played 14 games, but that was like the first loss for TK. And it was pretty definitive, right? Like, there wasn't ever – I mean, there were some close games. I remember like the London Docks hardpoint where Formal dropped like 48 and the game was still by, close by 20.
Yeah.
It was very much TK fashion, a lot of close games, but it was a 3-1, and Optic just seemed pretty comfortable for the most part.
Correct. And it's all about, the outslay potential is obviously there when you're facing up against a team like TK, but they're just so damn good of not letting you get full 60s at any given moment. So the fact that they're able to keep all these games close and then that opens up doors for people like Chino to make a play, for Kenny to make a play, even Akashi to make a play where they pop a 3-piece and what do you know? They win the game. So crazy potential going on there. The rest of these matches, I guess one team I want to speak about the most is kind of Era. I feel like they showed a lot of potential early on, but man, did they look amateurish at times. And there's a lot of situations where I'm like, damn, like Bevel's playing extremely well in several CTFs, Pharaoh slaying out like crazy in hard points, but then they would just do the most, sorry to say it, but brain dead stuff. It's like fundamental things that I feel like if they had been playing Respawn for years, that would never happen, right? But several times where simple streak usage, they could have cleaned out these maps super easily. Several times on St. Marie that I saw, especially from Pharaoh. Everyone's giving them a lot of crap on that. But the fact that I guess they surprised me with the amount of potential I saw from them, and the fact that they made such kind of newbie mistakes was tough to see at times.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing with streak usage, too. A lot of the times you're asking your guys, hey, should I use a streak right here, right? Like, you're setting up for a push. A lot of the times it's when you use a streak, it's, all right, get up to a certain spot, stay alive to, like, break a hill.
Right.
Or if you're going to call in a hill, for to, like, pick up 4 kills, it's just like, you're talking to your team, and typically someone says, yeah, that's a great idea. So it's not just like these guys are going rogue and clicking right on the D-pad and calling in streaks. I think it was a communication thing. We heard like Chance was talk about this a lot because Chance would go to the back, during production and just listen to comms, and he said like he just felt communication was super lackluster for that team, which you kind of expect. Again, Bevels, Pharaoh, and Decimate. How much LAN experience do these guys have? Right, like not much. I thought their first week was definitely a lot better than their second week. Their first week wasn't by all means great, but they showed upset potential. I think a lot of teams or a lot of people coming into this Division A thought, all right, Era is going to be that one team that steals a win that decides if a team like Echo, Fox, or Red Reserve goes to playoffs.
Right.
It didn't end up being that way, and I think after week 1 and then even the Pro League Challenge where they ended up winning it, whatever, a lot of situations there, a whole different situation there. But again, they won it. There was promise, and then you just got to week 2, and it was like, I don't know, man. It was not a good week for them whatsoever.
What's your speaking on that? What's your opinion on the dual pistol strategy in the Pro League Challenge?
So here's the thing, right? I think from a balanced perspective, you obviously choose a division end in a basic training. And I think because of that, going to the game, I mean, there was a lot of there wasn't much pro feedback around the duelist because people never wore it because you had to wear hunker. It was so important. Or you had to wear inconspicuous. It was so important that you didn't see it very often. I think even when Clay used it at New Orleans, there wasn't a lot of like this has to go, right? There wasn't that much talk really about it. So I think it's tough because when you use it in Search and Destroy, I think anytime you talk akimbo pistols in a sniper rifle, there is a lot of, you could do a lot with it. I think you could do a lot with a machine. Like that's why overkill is banned, right? So you can't be the
Jack
all.
of all
So you can't
trades.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't do it all. You can't have a submachine gun and a sniper. You can't have long range, short range. So I think it falls under that sort of category where just up close, especially with the semi-autos, like they kill in 2 to 3 bullets. They're super strong. So, I mean, we'll see. It's like, yeah, it was interesting to watch it unfold. I think Pharaoh showed its true potential.
Yeah, I think ultimately it was probably a good thing that it was shown in that
Yeah.
sort of fashion, someone being that jack of all trades. But why do it? You know you're not going to use it on land. It's like a sort of like a lame strategy, if you want to call it that. I just don't know why you try and cheese your way to a victory in an online tournament. Maybe that was just their thought process. They didn't really care that much. That was just an online tournament or whatever. But the fact that they do it and they show up on land the next couple of matches and kind of get smoked, it's like maybe you should practice the way you're going to play for the things that actually matter. That's sort of my thought on it. But regardless, it is what it is. I feel like it needed to be shown in that light once again, just to see so people know that it shouldn't. It's not.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like
be in the rule set, in my
I
opinion.
watched Clay in New Orleans, and like he's using a respawn, but he's getting naded. So I don't think people are really bad at it. Like people weren't going nuts about it. I think the Pickleman forum, I'm gonna give you props. I think he said it best. Pistols should be used as a last case scenario, not as a primary weapon themselves. It's obviously a little bit different when you have a sniper and a machine pistol, because a lot of the times when you move around the map, you're gonna have the pistol out, right? But you know that at range, your short range, you are in trouble if you find a PPSH. So yeah, I think that's the best way to put it. It's tough to say, but yeah, duelist is something unique.
Unique is a great word for it.
I mean, after week 1, I think going through these matches, Red Reserve and Rise, that was a game 5 that was super close. TK and Echo Fox was another game 5. Echo Fox we can touch on probably after week 2, because week 1 they showed a lot of great what we expected, right?
Yeah.
Like what you expected from this Echo Fox lineup, a ton of slaying potential. They also didn't have the toughest week 1. I think they played Era, Vitality, and they lost to TK. So they were 2-1 at that point. It's not like they showed anything special. A game 5 with TK, a lot of teams have done that. Like 11 teams have done that. So while that is still a solid showing, not a lot of teams have beaten TK on that. And then the finish, you had TK Red and Optic Rise. TK Red was when Chino went absolutely off in that Gibraltar hardpoint where he had like that 11 spree. I think Red could have, because I'm pretty sure they choked a hardpoint in Red or and Rise in Red. I think they choked something in that one. Like Red could have been 4-0 after this week.
Oh yeah,
and they could have had a great start to the Pro League.
Definitely, just a back-to-back very, very heartbreaking losses, and it got to the point where they showed up to the venue and they said, "We're just going to stop scrimming. We just are arguing all the time," and that's the things that happen after you have multiple losses like that, where you just aren't really sure what went wrong, and it's probably just split decision making, just didn't make the play when you needed to make a play, and those losses are so damn frustrating because you're right there, you feel like you're playing extremely good Call of Duty in general, and just you aren't getting the W's on the board. So frustrating losses, but Red does bounce back in a very, very strong way, and I feel like that showed a lot of composure, the fact they were able to do that going from week 1 to week 2.
Yeah, and then the last match of week 1, which was a great one, was Optic Rise.
Right.
I know Rise guys weren't happy about that because they choked that Ardennes Forest capture the flag, right? They were up like 2-0.
Yeah.
They had like 2 sets of streaks, and Optic just turned it on. And obviously Rise, if they got to a game 5 with how good their Search and Destroy worked the past couple of weeks, that could have been a completely different series. But again, you saw the potential of Rise, and I think that's why people sort of got on the hype train going into week 2. I know I certainly did.
Oh, definitely looked really strong. I guess now that we've kind of skimmed through these week 1 matches, we can prop up after week 2, throwing up the whole leaderboard of who's actually on top, the map counts, and all that type of stuff. So we saw how week 1 progressed out. We saw sort of teams, holding their own in the spots that we really expected them to. But now this is the records after week 2. You see Optic, Rise, TK, and Red Reserve really solidified into those top 4 spots. And then surprisingly, you see Echo Fox down there in 6th place, but behind Mindfreak with a 9-16 map count. Just not what I expected, but hey, Red or Echo, one of them had to shine through, and it was Red that was able to do it.
Yeah, I mean, now that I'm looking at these graphics, I didn't realize Echo Fox went 0-4 that week. All right. Yeah. They did go 0-4. And Red went 3-0.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, just right from the start of week one, you obviously the first match that's on there is Red Reserve versus Echo Fox, and we talked about it. That was a huge match for both teams because head to head, we thought this would have made Echo 2-2 and Rise 3-2, and we knew that with how good TK, Rise, and Optic have been, that could have been the potential 4th-5 head-to-head tiebreaker. So we knew how important that was. And because it was in a 3-0 fashion, if the results went the way we thought they would, and again, there's still a lot of games left, but they are in a very big hole right now. Yeah. Echo Fox will still have to 3-0 Red Reserve to force another tiebreaker. So that is a huge result, and I think really helped Red Reserve get on an absolute hot streak, because after that they seem to be very, very confident.
Definitely a huge turnaround. Looking through the rest of these matches, OG 3-0 Vitality, Rise versus Era. So basically the big juggernaut teams kind of beating up on the teams that are underperforming a little bit. TK versus Mindfreak. And this is where Mindfreak, I feel like, really turned it around.
It's a turnaround,
and started to get that fire lit under him. Like, okay, we finally feel like we belong here. They started playing with a lot more energy all of a sudden, and I feel like whatever happened, whatever the team talk that they had after week one, it really went well for them leading into week two, taking some really, really good teams to map 5, TK, and then to Optic, just smoking Optic in hard points is really cool to see. And we got the awesome listen-in where some F-bombs were dropped in the comments.
I was like, oh my God. Yeah, I mean, it was awesome to watch here. Like, I could talk about this. I was in the studio every day. Mindfreak, man, listen, the past couple of years, they've gone to these pro leagues, they've gone to events, and they have just not done well. They've had some top 8, like 2 top 8s at COD Champs, so there was always that expectation that they could be the best of the best. And I still think to this point that Dens and even Buzzo at this point, Dens, Fight It, like those guys are disgusting. We saw moments of it last year from guys like Shocks. They have the talent, but they always have to play catch up, and it was getting to them. Like straight up, they would come to events. And honestly, they just looked like they didn't want to be there. And that's how week one went. Week one, they were 1-9. They looked like they didn't want to be there. Their energy was super low. But this first TK match really just opened the floodgates for these guys. Like, it was like, oh my, like we almost just beat one of the best teams in the world, guys. Like, all right, like let's wake up now. I don't remember the exact maps of the TK Mindfreak, but Mindfreak could have started off this week great, but even just those 2 map wins, because we talked about it, how important they were. They just, again, TK or Mindfreak, sorry, they always started in a hole 0-1 or 0-2, and you just can't do that versus the internet, like the best teams internationally.
Yeah, completely agree with you. Looking through the rest of these matches, obviously Mindfreak with a huge turnaround, and because of those, the map count, even in the losses, helps them out a lot, because now they're in a pretty solid position above Echo Fox in that 5th place slot, which is very, very good for them, finally building some sort of momentum. What else? Any of these? What do you think about Vitality? You think from week 1 to week 2, did you see a good enough improvement, or did you feel like they were kind of the same?
Well, again, Era... Vitality, I think you saw. So week 1, you saw glimpses. Like you would see Whalers play well. You would see Xerox have a great search and destroy. Riskin, sort of that submachine gun player. He had a pretty solid search and destroy throughout week 1, throughout both of these weeks. Mulls has been the kind of inconsistent player for me.
Yeah.
When they won game 1 versus Era, he had like a 1 point. Yeah, he was over a 1.0 KD. Then when they lost like the game 4, I remember this vividly. Like, and he had multiple games throughout there where he just had super slow starts, like 1-10 or like 0-11. Like just super slow, and that just can't happen. So I think he was the difference maker for Vitality versus Era, but really you saw Whaler shine. You saw him really step it up. I think it was a big match win, right? I mean, they now have the tiebreaker over Vitality. They're
Right.
only one game back behind Mindfreak and Echo Fox or Era. Sorry, they and 5-6 is so important. It gets you to stage 2,
Oh yeah.
qualifies you for champs. Like that's a big deal. I mean, just before this year, we were hoping that like the French, the Germans, they would get back into the mix of things, and they did. I saw improvement. Again, it was also they beat I think a very bad Era in week 2. Honestly, like they just didn't see him in their matches. It wasn't what I expected whatsoever. Again, they did lose 3-0 to Rise, respectable. They did lose 3-1 to Red, but just games and same mistakes over and over and over again.
That's what I hate to see too. It's like you can see the potential, but then you go over to week 2 and they make the same dumb plays as they did in week 1. And I remember one camera shot after a map, and Ricky just looks over. He goes, "We wasted our effing streaks again."
No.
And Ricky's a very level-headed guy, and he looked just pissed. And that's when you know it's just something's going wrong. I'm not sure if his leadership's not being respected on the team. I don't know what's going on, but it's still the same amateurish mistakes. And I don't know if it's experience that's going to fix that, if they're just hard-headed and not really understanding what is a good and bad play when it comes to these things. But I feel like Air is the only team that looked worse going from week 1 to week 2, and that's disappointing.
Yeah, them and Echo Fox, really, right?
Yeah, true.
And I think Bevel's is looked great. Honestly, like even when you look at stats for Era, there's nobody who just stands out and is like, yeah, he's playing bad.
Yeah.
Like he's the reason they're losing. You saw great performances from Ricky. You saw amazing, like slaying wise, like a hardpoint. Decimate had some bombs that he was dropping throughout week 1 in week 2. So you see the potential in him. Bevels completely took over certain CTF games. Farrell completely took over Search and Destroy games. So once they can put it all together, it's going to be a pleasure to watch. And you saw them tweeting, and they talked to us at the studio, like they'd be like, hey, like thanks for saying this was a mistake. Like we watched the VODs, like we get it now. So I think they're trying, and I think they're trying to put that extra effort in. But I mean, they're going to have to. I mean, it sucks to say, but you have to. Hopefully, these next 2 weeks help them a lot. Yeah. You have to sort of mess up time and time again until you get it right. I suppose, right? Like losing is learning. Hopefully, these guys figure it out because the potential is definitely there.
Completely agree with you.
But I think these last 3 games, those last 3, I think those are the last 3 games of week 2 of Division A were spicy,
juicy.
Yeah, I mean, even Vitality over Era, that last day was actually crazy. So we talked about that, and then you have Mindfreak 3-0 Echo Fox. This was a huge match for Echo Fox. It would have put them at 3-4 instead of 2-5, sort of in striking distance. Now they're 3 games behind Red Reserve.
Yeah,
they still have a 0-3, tiebreaker that they have to catch up on. This put Echo Fox in a really bad position, but this also showed the potential of Mindfreak and what could happen once they came into their own.
Did Mindfreak figure out something on Hardpoint? Because they just did a complete 180, dude.
So what they told me was they needed to just put Buzzo in the hill, and he said, like a lot of the rotations for international teams typically came from submachine gun players, which I think we saw like Black Ops 2, first year at Hardpoint, it was the anchor, right? Like he's got to, like Clay's got to go, Joe's got to go.
Yeah.
And what you saw as the game went on is that a submachine gun player would just hide in a corner and he's going to win that gunfight or would play a cut. So I think that is what sort of evolved. Everybody has learned how to rotate. Any player can do it at any point. And they just realized that like guys like Methods, guys like Krim, they were getting so much time on the hill and also getting a good amount of kills because you got to think about a lot of the ways the maps are set up, right? Like St. Marie, for example, an AR on the hill, like that is a pretty long sight line for like hills basically 2, 3, and 4. So just sit them on the hill. Let them just eat nades with armored and pick up easy gunfights.
Yeah, definitely. It just breaking spawns in this game is just a lot different than previous boots on the ground hardpoints, where you don't really have clean lines of sights. So like you don't really want your AR just always taking long routes and things like that. It's like as soon as you can get an angle on someone, you want your AR guy there. And a lot of time putting him just in hill, they can have a really advantageous spot. You get the waves of pressure out from your SMGs, but man, whatever Mindfreak did, they figured out something quite well. They adapted to the American style of hardpoint and just started bodying people. So I feel like the more time, the more consistent practice that they can get versus these guys, damn, they could get better. And I don't want to go out and say that they're going to make a top 4 and make playoffs. I don't think that's in the cards for them yet, but definitely looking a lot better. So they 3-0 Echo Fox in an absolute stomp, which is very fun to watch. Then we had Optic versus Red Reserve, and for whatever reason, Red Reserve just has our number when it comes to respawn. It's crazy.
So what I'm trying to remember even the maps. So I don't even remember. What did you guys win search and they won all 3 respawns, or
we won CTF and they won everything.
You won CTF,
so
they won both hard points.
Yeah.
Okay.
Search was round 11. Was went either way, but the hard points they just countered us really.
And I think too, like after the Echo Fox Optic game, you guys were like 9-0, I think, in hardpoint, and then the last 2 you lost both hardpoints.
Yep.
So that's what was crazy to me is there was obviously some struggles coming into stage 1 with hardpoint, and then it got fixed. Obviously 9-0, the guys were looking basically unstoppable, and then I don't know what happened, but Mindfreak and Red just took it to Optic, and I think this was a huge win for Red Reserve. I think again it's one of those wins where it just kind of solidifies, legitimizes your team.
Yeah, definitely, and just huge plays from Red Reserve, really keeping them in the running to get that extra lead. Like you said, a 3-game lead over Echo Fox now, so that win over Optic was absolutely huge. And I think the biggest thing that Red is just so good at is their SMGs work together so well, and it makes it seem like they're playing so fast. They're
Josh and Joe.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, exactly. So the fact that they're able to, on the Optic series, for example, they're able to just like walk in the front and contest so much time. It really reminded me of how TK sort of plays, where they just let their playmaker make one of those plays and just stall out so much time. They're like, okay, cool, you have good spawn. We're not going to waste our time. We're just going to win our gunfights at the front door and just go from there. But just dominant hard points from them. And I feel like that was a huge confidence boost for Red, especially the last match of week 2 for them. I feel like they're going to come out on the next stint and just be as confident as ever.
Now, like, you obviously want to get 7-0, but I'll ask you this question. Like, Optics obviously 6-1. Are you kind of happy they lost that game? So the motivation is still there. Like, we're still beatable. Like, because like guys like Seth, it can very easily after 7-0 in 2 weeks just kind of say, all right, we're back, like back to whatever we were doing before type thing. Does that loss kind of just like put them back to reality still?
I hated the loss personally.
Yeah, well, of course, nobody wants to lose.
Obviously, but I have a point to this. Like, I feel like you can't. It was a short period of time from NOLA to Pro League, and it seemed like everything was going fine. And then what really scared me about those last 4 hard points that we lost is it looked like our old hard point. So it made me think it's like the same sort of thing happened at Dallas. They're on top of the world. They thought they were better than everyone. No one could touch them. And as soon as they let their guard down, which I feel like they kind of did after they had a perfect record in hardpoint, you let their guard down just a little bit, and these people are so good that they're going to figure out a way to improvise and beat you. So I feel like the same work ethic and motivation wasn't there going into those last couple of games, which is a dumb excuse and shouldn't happen, but it did happen. I feel like they weren't getting there multiple hours before and trying to find a team to scrim. They weren't really thinking about competing in the same way, and the fact that happened in such a short period of time, Mindfreak should have beat us, but we ended up clutching up in the map 5. Red Reserve did beat us, so it's like I hate to see such upward and downward trends in a short period of time, and that's really what scared me about the last
emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
No, I think you're right. Now that I look back at it, like week 1, those guys again, they were the first people there. They were scrimming, they were eating.
It was easy to
were
see
shooting
that they were
bots.
motivated.
Yeah, very easy. And I think you're right. Like, I mean, week 2, I don't really remember that as much. So that is a very interesting point. But yeah, Red looked solid, like you said, legitimize it. And then the last match, TK versus Rise.
That was a sick match, dude.
Sick game. I think TK actually went up 2-0 very quickly. I think they had full control of the match. And then Rise turned it around and reverse swept TK. And this was really on there was a ton of focus on obviously methods. But I think the 2 guys on Rise that really stuck through was one, obviously TJ. This
such a good
series. There was hard point, like when there was episodes before where I still said like I wanted to see more from TJ.
Yeah.
Like you could go back and find that. Like I wanted to see more. This was finally it. I think he showed his potential. Now, this is what we're going to expect in a lot of big games. This is the type of performance I want to see. It's not going to happen every single match, but you have to play at this level, because when he can play at this level, you can see what Rise can be. And I think the second guy was Gunless. I think there was obviously a ton of attention around methods, and I get it. Even if you look at the stats now, I think methods is number 2 with a 1.23 over 17 maps. But right behind him at number 4 is Gunless. And there was a lot of I mean, he's playing the secondary AR, which after last year when he was on a United and we considered him the best player in the world and was a submachine gun player. But as soon as he transitioned to FaZe, you saw that he wanted to run an AR. So he seems to just be comfortable. This is the role he wants to play. And I think it's paying big dividends for these guys.
Definitely. And I think the biggest thing that we need to highlight is I very rarely gas people. But there's been a lot of talk about the ARs being so damn strong, yada, yada, yada. It's much easier to be the main AR on the team. The fact that TJ was able to play so aggressive, use a submachine gun for majority of the situations, and still do so damn well. I want to gas up TJ. That last series, he put the team in the backpack, and he said, "We're winning this shit."
Yeah,
and they did. It went absolutely huge, and his S&D is far and away better than everyone else that I've seen so far. The fact that he has a 1.72 is able to play so damn aggressive. The next person has accuracy at a 1.38, and actually is a much slower AR player that you really expect to have a high KD, especially in like Search and Destroy. He actually is not the first guy going in a lot of the time. TJ is. He is one of the first guys going in. So he's playing. Every time I see the guy, I swear you're on S&D watching him, and he already has 10 kills. It's like round 3. The guy's nuts. I wanted some proper TJ gas.
Yeah, again, like this was I said it coming into this day and going into week 2. I think a lot of people agreed with me, but I thought Rise from game type to game type looked the second best after Optic, because they had the 6-0. They were looking good. Rise was number 2 to me, like clear cut. They played a very close series against Optic, and that like this is exactly the reason why. Like to be able to reverse sweep TK is not difficult. And how many reverse sweeps have we really had this year? Not a lot. Last year it was like
every other series.
Basically every other series. Yeah. So it was a very impressive game. Game 5, I think they went to around 11. I think it was crazy. It was a crazy game 5. And they played their St. Marie Dumont perfectly. That is really, with the new spawns, we talked about it. They looked the most comfortable because guys like TJ just really felt like he knew how to control the map. So, but yeah, I mean, it was a hell of a match, and just like that, 2 weeks of Division A is done.
Crazy.
Yeah. So, this is, if you look at these final standings after 2 weeks, they obviously still do have 7 more games. I feel like the top 4. I don't want to say they're safe, because I think, again, you could see if like a Red Reserve could slip up, if an Echo Fox gets hot. Like, there's no saying Echo Fox can't go 6-1 in the next set. But is 8-7 or 8-6 gonna be good enough to get them in? So I think early on, after probably like 1 week of week 3, we'll probably have a good idea at who's going where, unless things get really tight.
Right.
But yeah, I'm actually super excited. I don't expect top 4. Maybe they shuffle around a bit. I expect that
Right.
to be the top 4 after the next couple of weeks. But I'm excited to see if there's any changes between 5 through 8, because if Mindfreak gets hot or Era does get hot and upsets some teams, things can get crazy very quickly.
Oh, for sure. And I feel like a lot of teams are going to make adaptations just because they had so much practice in a short period of time. So we're going to see who comes out with the fire going into the second stint, the second part of the double round robin. And
Yep.
I feel like, yeah, I think I agree. There's going to be a shuffle between those 2 through 4 spots, especially early on. Some of the big matches, once Rise and TK plays again, Red versus TK, basically all the matches between the juggernauts, that's going to determine who is going to be seated where for playoffs. I just I didn't see enough from Echo Fox. I don't feel like they're a team that's going to be able to bounce back that quickly. I could be proven wrong, but just looking at that lineup, I just don't see it happen really.
That's something we could talk about. I mean, I was very high hopes on this team. I think, again, once Facendo and Aqua got back together, there was, again, New Orleans, they got top 6. I don't know if it was a honeymoon period, but I'm going through their stats. The one that sticks out to me the most, I mean, their S&D is better than their respawns. Their respawn, they're 3-7 in Hardpoint, 2-5 in CTF, and we talked about it. This is a team that has to slay. They're not a TK. They aren't like a Red Reserve. If they're getting outslayed, they're just gonna lose. I don't know. It's the type of players that they are. If you go back and look at, maybe you can say Aqua and Faceno, like their old Elevate rosters and TR. But still, when they played the best teams in the world, while they were getting top 4, they were consistently losing to Optic, and we pointed it to Slang. And then they made that move for Felony to try to up that.
Right.
So Slang has always been sort of a mismatch. But then you talk about Saints, like when his teams are successful, they slay, right? Like look at Luminosity last year. So we knew that was really the big factor into it. And I mean, Hardpoint, the only person over a 1 is Assault. Like you need more from Aqua, who, if he's going to run a secondary AR, you probably even want more from Assault if he's running a main AR, like a 1.03.
Yeah, you're basically leading into my point.
Yeah.
Assault's respawn KD is 1.03, Aqua's is 1.01, Saints is at a 1, and Facendo's at a 0.83.
Yep.
Facento needs to come up, or Assault needs to go way higher as sort of the main AR.
But does Facendo's come up if the ARs play better, right? That's always the thing. True. It's always so tough to play as a sub if your ARs aren't slaying. So, I mean, I just don't know if their positioning is off in Hardpoint or what it is, but and maybe it was just a honeymoon period as well in New Orleans.
It very well could have been. But when you look at this lineup and you say, when it comes down to the wire, and I expect, and when you talk about team play and who's going to be playing quote unquote right most of the time, I probably wouldn't pick the players on Echo Fox to be making smart plays besides Facento probably. So the fact that their KDs aren't that good, it's not surprising that they're losing. This is an outslay team, and when they don't outslay, they're going to have a 2-5 record, and there it is.
Yeah.
These are low numbers for these type of players. I'm just used to them dropping like 1.2s, all of them, besides Facento.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm actually surprised, like looking at CTF, they actually slayed pretty well. But they play Ardennes Forest, and they're 2-3 on Ardennes Forest and 0-2 on London Docks. So London Docks is very much a slay heavy map.
Oh yeah.
And I remember the one series, it was Echo Fox versus Red, and you heard them. They were talking in the back because they played Red Reserve on London Docks, and they were just kind of like, what are we doing? We're not even that good at London Docks. like why did we just play that? So there's definitely seems to be some issues. Again, this is a team that could come back and go 7-0. Like they have the potential to do it. It's just going to be super tough because, I mean, even 50% for S&D, every single game mode has to improve for these guys. There's a lot of times where you can say, all right, their hard points good, their S&D is okay, their CTF's great. If they improve S&D, this will be a top 4 team. But they have to improve every single game type, and that's difficult to do.
Especially, I'm going to go out on a limb and say practice once you're at home is not going to be as good as you are in the LAN league. So it's going to be might be tough for some of these teams to find sufficient scrims. Or are they going to take it as serious because they're back to the online BS? You know how some of these pro players are. So, I
was just home. I was just in Columbus dumping on
frying
these
people. And they go to online scrims and start doing dumb stuff and start losing. They're like, just write it off. So, I feel like the 2 weeks off might hurt a lot more people than it's going to help. But yeah, after this shuffle, we're going into Division B now. We'll throw the graphic up of what teams are going to be showing up. Matches start on Tuesday, which is tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern. So looking at all these teams, actually, do I have a better... We'll just bring up all the teams again.
All right.
I accidentally deleted it. All right, let's pull up this.
That's all right. We could talk about each team.
I'm moving over this picture real quick. Talk for me, Joseph.
Yeah, I mean, going through Division B, you have Luminosity, United, FaZe, Envy, EG, Splice, Unilad, Epsilon. We touched on it a bit. I think this team has talent more spread out than Division A. But there's a lot of key factors. I think LG, United, FaZe are sort of the clear top three. Then the question marks really rely on in Splice if they would have their full roster. But I think we can discuss that. But Envy, EG, Unilad, Epsilon are question marks. I think we could probably start this with let's start this with sort of the bottom teams and come up. Epsilon. We're not too sure what to get from Epsilon. You heard Dave's interview at New Orleans. It wasn't like sarcastic. He was just being very straight up. Like, we're not good right now, but luckily we've made it to the Pro League. We know this is a very long year. We typically get better as the year goes on, which has been true. And they don't get the best practice at home. I don't know if that's because I remember last year when Splice came back for like stage 2 playoffs or something during stage 2 where they really just collapsed and Zero kind of had like a mental shambles, right? Like they basically said like we scrimmed Epsilon a ton and they completely changed our play style and that was it. So I don't know if there's a couple of teams who just don't play Epsilon due to that. Because that could very well be like Splice is like, listen, last year our entire year flip flopped after we played Epsilon. We're not playing them,
right?
So yeah, I mean, we're just not too sure what to see from Epsilon. You obviously, I think last year, the two guys, like obviously Dave was incredible throughout the year. Could have potentially been the best player in Europe, consistent wise. Hockey and Vortex were super inconsistent.
Yeah.
If Hockey played well, with the ERAD, it typically didn't. They typically played pretty well. It's a completely different game. They don't have the best placing so far. They haven't had the best performances. And then they have new talent. And I'm not too sure what to think of the new young talent. I respect it. Picking up Nathan, trying something new, not going through recycled things in Europe. But I just don't know what to expect from this team yet.
I just don't have high hopes. I feel like once you have that thought once, your entire confidence. Like it's so easy to give up at that point. I guess is my point. So I feel like as soon as one or two matches go wrong, or they just feel like they don't have any sort of confidence and they're not improving whatsoever, these players are just going to be more and more prone to give up. I hope they make it as competitive as possible. Moving up the line a little bit, Unilad, I feel like they can make a lot of these games competitive. I wouldn't be surprised if they make some of these series closer than expected. Do I think they're going to win the majority of their respawns? Probably not, but they could definitely make some S&Ds and CTFs very, very interesting and steal some maps off the top competition. Do I think they're going to do it versus like LG and United? No. Probably not FaZe either, but maybe some of the other teams they could make some of the games interesting. Moving up as well, some drama with Splice going down. Jerd's not going to be able to play the first set of matches. Felony going to be swapping in for him. So a team that I had a lot of high hopes for coming into this one could have a bit of a rough start. Fellow, a fantastic player, but is is he going to fulfill what Jerd does for that team? It's going to be tough too, because Jerd plays so fast.
Yeah, and I think Felony, I think they probably got the best, because I was having this discussion. I think if they needed an AR, it's probably pretty easy. Like, right, you go after Dashy or Parasite, like that's a lot easier. But when you have to fill in a sub, world class subs are very hard to find, especially outside of the Pro League. So I think Felony was kind of the easy pick. The other ones that sort of popped up in my head was Study, but Study can tend to be inconsistent at times. Blastful, but they don't know Blastful, so they went with the veteran and Felony. You kind of know what you're going to get. It's going to be tough, right? It sucks. They just need to try and survive. I believe it's week 1. They do have some tough matches. They have E United. They have a big match against Unilad, which could be, between that 4 and 5, right? Like, depending on how Unilad is, because I think, like you said, Unilad, they're going to make series close, and they have upside potential. They're like Era Eternity to me, where they're like, a top 4 team could lose to them.
Yeah.
And we saw that last year with Fnatic during the Pro League. They had some upsets. Then you have FaZe versus Splice, and then you have Epsilon versus Splice. If they can go 2-2, and Jerd can arrive, and they can finish around 4 and 3, I think they should be happy, right?
For sure. I'd agree with that.
I think with Felony, they can beat Unilad and Epsilon. FaZe and E United, it's going to be very, very tough.
Yeah. But Splice has just scary potential in general, though.
They got to be pissed off, too, after their last performance.
Yeah. It's the same sort of story as Optic, right? They got, bopped out of NOLA around that same area. I think they also ended 9-12, correct? So they're going to be pissed off. They're going to have a point to prove. If they're able to come in with a sub and take some big matches, man, they could build a lot of momentum. But then it creates the whole situation where it's like, all right, now we're doing well with Fellow. Then you're swapping back to your regular teammate too. I hope everything works out for them. It's an unfortunate circumstance that they have to go through this, but they got to be resilient and just get as many wins as possible versus the teams that they should.
Yep.
A lot of potential with Splice, though. They could be scary and definitely make their way into the top 4. EG.
The next two, EG and Envy. These are the big ones.
So this is sort of the same sort of bubble as I would place sort of Echo Fox and Red Reserve when we're talking about Division A. Sort of the same thing here between EG and Envy. Difference is, I feel like the level of EG and Envy is much lower is kind of mean. But it's definitely lower than Red Reserve and Echo Fox, I think, in terms of overall team performance and top level skill. So
I mean, if Splice is there too with full lineup, like this is potentially your 5-6, right? Like
right, exactly.
Yeah. So
I feel like EG is going to do really well. They've been going through it. They've had a tough go at things. It's a lot similar to EG last year, where they barely make their way into Pro League and are able to clutch up there. So I feel like this roster is going to benefit a lot from being together and getting some consistent practice in, because they haven't really been in the pro bubble for the majority of the tournaments leading up. Maybe they're not getting like top level scrims a lot of the time. I feel like they will be able to improve a lot. Envy, I feel like, is just an absolute goddamn mess. I'd be surprised if they do well at all, honestly. I think the talent's obviously there. I feel like the top level potential, man, talent wise, they could be a really good team. But the chemistry does not seem good. The last couple of performances from them, the players just seem to get frustrated. They start switching roles. They just aren't really sure what to do to turn things around. And then it's just an attitude thing. I feel like the attitudes on the team just aren't great, and that doesn't create a situation that's easy to improve in.
Yeah, I mean, so first I'll touch on EG. I think you're right? Like there's so much pressure on pro points, getting that last spot. They had a top 8 finish at New Orleans. They played extremely well. They had a tough pool. They survived that. They could have won round 1. I think it was against E United, right? That went like a round 11, or I forget what their winners round 1, where they would have placed top 6 and everything would have been okay. It might have been FaZe actually too. I forget. It was one of those two teams. Everything would have been okay. It was E United, right? And they would have had a big win under their belt. They still don't have one of the biggest. They don't have like a huge win under their belt. I think at Dallas they might have beat Splice because they had a super tough pool.
Yeah.
Whatever it was, they beat someone, and you've seen the potential. Yeah, I agree. I think the pressure is sort of off. Yeah, the thing I was looking at about this division that I'm really excited for is each team has a lot to prove in this division. Epsilon wants to show that they have potential. Unilad wants to be top 3 in Europe. Envy wants to show that this roster move wasn't the worst. Played it simple. EG wants to show they belong, Then you have, FaZe, they want to win again. You have LG, who very easily could have been your CWL New Orleans champs, and now they're not, so they're probably pissed off. And then I know I have one more that I missed. Oh, E United. They got into winter semis 2 events in a row, and then they bombed out 2 just lost by loss. So each one of these teams has something to prove, and I think they're all going to be super motivated. So I'm super excited about that. But yes, back to EG. I got off topic there as I was looking at this beautiful graphic. I think the big people that have to perform well are Aches and Nameless. I think you typically get pretty consistent performances on Enable and Apathy. If this team really wants to do well, it has to be on Aches and Nameless if they want to beat the best teams in the world. For Envy, yeah, as you said, I think it's a mess right now. I briefly spoke to the players today. They said online has been going better, but they also told me that before New Orleans. So
yeah,
I mean, this is when I gave them to really show their true colors. We're about to hit 3 months. You have Temp and Hoot come in back. Slasher's been magnificent. I know they hate when we gas him too much, but he has been.
Oh, yeah.
Temp has shown great signs, but it's really been Classic and Hook. If they can step it up, this could be a top 4 team in the world. They just haven't yet. And I don't even think we've seen really a match or 2 that shows us they have that potential right now. So this is, I think this first week is very important for those guys because you know how tilted guys like Slasher can get.
Oh, yeah.
If they go 0-3 this week, I'm looking at they have FaZe, they have EG, they have Unilad. That's not the toughest week. That means next week they have E United, Luminosity, Splice. So
that's real tough. Yeah.
If you are an Envy fan, you want to go 2-1 at the latest. Plus, you want to beat EG and Unilad because those are 2 teams you should beat. So, very, very interesting week for Envy. They have to, because again, if you go 1-2 or 0-3 this week, and then you have to look at who you're playing next week, you're like, crap, we're done. We're screwed. Fact of the matter. Yeah. So, I think these 2 teams really sort of delegate this division.
Oh, for sure. If I had to pick a top 4 that I think is going to make it to playoffs, I'd go with LG, United, FaZe, and probably Splice. This is completely bold call. I've been thinking about this when you were talking. I feel like this is I'm thinking about potential because there's only 4 teams that make playoffs, right? And then there's going to be another a period of time where roster changes will be going down. I feel like this is going to be a huge time, especially in this division with how many talented individuals that there are between these teams that won't make playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to create a situation where I feel like we're going to see certain individuals on Envy, EG, maybe FaZe if they do bad, really stand out, and possibly a combination of these standout players might form some sort of super roster after when all this is said and done. So I'm just thinking about the potential things that could happen. Like, let's say in Division A, Echo Fox doesn't do well, and then EG and Envy don't do well. That's a lot of talent, a lot of pools of players that could just think of the combination of those players on those teams and try and form the best team out of those players that won't be able to make Stage 1 playoffs. So I was just kind of racking my brain a little bit for a second there. The potential of that's pretty cool. If you had to take a top 4 right now, what would you pick for Div B?
So I'm obviously worried about Splice, right? I think they do need to go at least 2-2. They would be in my top 4, but this sort of scares me. Another team that kind of scares me, and we haven't touched on them much, is actually FaZe. Um, they have a pretty tough, never mind. I was gonna say they have a tough Wednesday because they play Splice and United, but they should be able to beat Splice without Jared. I still I want FaZe to continue to do extremely well, but they're another team like you look at New Orleans, they went 7-9 in pool play, right?
Yeah.
Like as great of a run as they had at Dallas, they went 7-9 in pool play. They were able to make it out because Mindfreak beat Lightning Pandas. They lose Game 5 to Luminosity. Then, they do beat Envy and Losers, but then they lose to Red. So I don't know if I want to be completely sold on FaZe, but I'm just not yet because, in all honesty, their New Orleans performance wasn't the best after Dallas. It wasn't strong enough for me.
Yeah, you're totally right. They definitely could flop out. You never know.
Yeah, so this is a team I'm a little worried about. We know how Reap can be. They still finished top 8 in New Orleans, but we know how Reap can be mentally. Like he can get down on himself. So I want to see them do well, but that's a team that if Envy or EG step up, like FaZe and Splice could potentially drop down to 5-6. So this whole division to me just really relies on Envy and Evil Geniuses. I think E United and Luminosity are just they should be top 2. I don't think there's teams. Maybe you would say maybe Splice or FaZe playing at their top level could take a series, but from what we saw from Luminosity at New Orleans, they should be perfectly fine. All around, they had a great event. Probably should have won it.
Yeah.
Right. E United, I think they kind of love. I just feel like they love competing and they live for this. Like I think they're gonna be fired up at the arena. You know how Clay gets. They're gonna play enthusiastic Call of Duty. So I think E United should be safe. If I had to pick a top 4 right now, I'd go LG, E United, not in this order. LG, E United. I will go FaZe just because they have had consistent results. Everyone else here, not so much.
Right.
Number 4. Yeah.
It's scary. Chat, join us with this. As Joe's thinking about his 4th team that he's going to pick, who's your top 4? Go.
It's going to be so much easier after I see week 1 because I think
of course.
The big thing is I want to see how good EG is. And we're going to see that in day 1 because they play LG right, last match of the night. So we're going to see the potential. But yeah, I think I'd probably stick with Splice right now as long as they can survive and go 2-2. I think they win it probably the next week because I think they're going to be, super fired up. And they do have a lot of tough matches. So they play FaZe and E United this week. So that means the next week they would, they play Luminosity. That's their toughest opponent. Yeah, I see a lot of people saying EG, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who trust EG. I don't know if you guys have been watching streams or practice that I haven't been, but there's a lot of trust in EG, and I don't think you guys should have that yet. I don't think you should have that yet.
Blast.
I get it, but I don't know, man. So I'm gonna stick with Splice right now. This may change after week 1. Because I don't think Envy, no. Epsilon, no. Unilad, I hope they finish 5-6, but I don't think they're going to make top 4. That was tough. But I actually do think it does come down to EG and Splice. I think that's it.
Yeah, it really should. If things play out as they should. Sort of Div A kind of played out as we expected. I personally thought Echo Fox was going to edge out Red Reserve, but
Me too.
I wasn't surprised by any means that Red Reserve came hot because they had a crazy good finish at NOLA. They carried over that momentum, and you see the potential with Red is obviously there. Now that we've kind of gone through and gave our predictions for how Division B is going to go, how are you liking the format, man? Compared to last year, for example, the double round robin. Obviously, we got through the first round robin of Div A, going into Group B tomorrow, Div B tomorrow. What are your thoughts initially?
I mean, I love the longevity of it, right? It's obviously double the length as last year's stages. You obviously have more teams here. I think everybody's excited about that. Like because the thing was last year with like a group would come in, 4 teams. They might not have been the closest people, and I get that. Like it is what it is. Your teammates, but it's a lot of fun when you walk to the back and there's 8 teams kind of just hanging out, right? Like
Yeah,
it's a nice environment.
it really is.
You know, the nice banner. There's always people like having a great time. But in terms of the competition, I think it's at its highest it's ever been. I'm a big fan of this format. Um, you know, obviously we want to get. I think everybody would love to get to the point where you have like a 12 or a 16 team pro league where everybody's there, right? That's
Yeah.
like the best. But I think this is the next best thing.
Sure.
So yeah, I'm very excited. Again, last year with the groups, we could say we were probably 9 times out of 10 correct with who the top 2 were.
Yeah.
In each group, just because we knew. And this time, while we do think we have a good idea of the top 4 in like Division B per se, there's no reason like someone like EG or Envy, even Unilad or FaZe has a bad week, something bad can't happen. Like every single one of these matches, this I am excited to watch. Like there is upset potential every single time. So
Yeah, that was my point. There's so much more potential in this
Yep.
format for spoiler. Like
Yeah.
someone can just ruin someone's record on any given day, and the fact that I feel like going back to last year, the stages they were good, and you got a good idea of which teams are better than others, but there was less varied competition. So the fact that these guys have to be good for an extended period of time, I feel like the 2-week delay in between, we're really going to see who has that right mindset, who continues to progress, and I feel ultimately will show us who really is the top 4 teams in each division.
Yeah.
Whereas the groups last year, you could have a good day and be set, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think this is a lot of fun, and you spoke about the environment too. I just feel like this is just having all these people in a centralized location for a good period of time, 2 weeks at a time. They're gonna get better. It's gonna raise the overall level of competition, and most importantly, it's gonna get the bad teams to probably a more average level, which means that each match should be better and better as this year goes on. And then we haven't even got to relegation. There's going to be better teams that have the potential of making it in. And then going into stage 2, it's going to be even more competitive in this one. So I feel like
Think about playoffs, bro.
Yeah, dude,
like
playoffs
is gonna be
dude,
nuts.
round 1 of playoffs, every single matchup's going to be so good, or at least it should be.
Yeah, like for
huge.
example, like so you have the way playoffs work stream. If you guys don't know, so the number 1 team from Division A will play the number 4 from Division B. Number 2 from Division A will play number 3 from Division B, and then that sort of flip flops. So number 1 from Division B plays number 4 from Division A. So just for like example, like right now you could have a Rise Nation E United in round 1, right? Like you could have an Optic EG round 1. So those 8 teams, as you said, I think we're really going to find the best 8 teams in the world. That's just what happens with most games. I think one thing that's sort of gone under the radar, but I love it. It's still I'm a big fan of the veto system. I know as a viewer, you might get only Arden Forest and London Docks, and that might put you to sleep. But there is a lot of preparation and a lot of mind games that goes into the vetoes, and like we're not talking BS. Like if someone messes up the vetoes, it could potentially lose somebody the game. And I think you've seen that happen already in Division A. So I'm very excited just to see how that's evolved. It's been a great start, and we're only 2 weeks in. We have 6 weeks left of this stage, and then we have a whole another 8.
Yeah.
So
the reason I bring this up is like people are like, oh, COD, like it's mostly like a viewership argument, like, oh, COD's not in the state that it was, yada yada yada. I'm tired of people being negative. We have the best pro leagues format and setup and level of competition that we've ever had in Call of Duty. Mm-hmm. There's issues with the game. We all understand what it is, and it's going to get better over time. Hopefully, our map pool gets deeper and deeper as the year goes on. Obviously, it would be ideal if we could, get these weird months out of the way earlier on in the COD cycle, but regardless, by the time Pro League is in full swing and we get to like playoffs and stuff, I feel like the game's going to be in a really good spot. And I want, like, this is the time where our community needs to support. It's such a good format. There's so many good matches. The level of competition is only going to get better and better. The game leads to a lot of like dramatic results. A lot of these hard points go down to the wire just because of the way the game works right now. And it's a lot of fun. So I just hope everyone is enjoying what we have and realizing it, you know?
Yeah, I agree, right? Like, I mean, there's a CWL team that is working their butts off every day. And obviously they want to keep seeing improvement, but I'm going to be honest, the start of the Pro League has been honestly pretty great. I know it's not event-type numbers, but, like, I know, like, Optic and Rise, like, okay, everybody say, well, you had Optic in that match, but that got upwards of between like 50 and 60,000 viewers for just a regular league match. So it's there. I would love it to be triple that.
Of course.
But we're going to continue to push it. And I think, again, like, the more people realize how good these games are, the more that'll come through.
Yeah, and a little bit more of a rant on that. It's just like, we need to stop comparing to other things. COD is its own special thing. We have our own, we play on console. We have such a segregated demographic, and I get mad when prolific people in our community are always saying negative things and promoting negativity. That's going to translate over to all these people that watch, and I just want it to stop. I feel like if people were more positive about this whole scenario, that's going to draw in more positivity and ultimately more people to watch. Simple as that. We're getting there. We just got to be more positive about things sometimes, is my opinion.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, I would love that, right? Positivity is great. Because, the whole team, they obviously see negative feedback and criticism. They take it super seriously. So, and I think even from a player, right? Like, there was players just like, I think Zero was the first guy that said it. But he was like, thanks MLG for, just accommodating us and yada, yada, yada. And, like, those tweets get shared around to people, right? And they make people happy. And it shows that there's a team, that their hard work is paying off. So, I mean, everything positive is great. I mean, that's what people want to see.
Joe, I think you and your team have put together a great Pro League, and I want people to realize that.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Tyler.
Yeah.
Thank you. But yeah, man, I'm super excited. Have you showed the schedule for this week?
Yes, I'll throw it up again. You can go over it real quick.
Yeah, I mean, so I think obviously we start off tomorrow with a bang, right? You have NV FaZe. That's obviously a huge matchup. You'll see the potential of Unilad versus Luminosity. EG Epsilon, that should be pretty comfortable. United Splice, it would have been an incredible match, but obviously the Jerd issue. Luminosity EG, I think, again, that'll be a huge test for EG. Wednesday, you'll see one of the European battles. Luminosity Epsilon, I think you'll see LG win that. FaZe Splice, it would have been another big one, but Jerd. EG Envy, I think that 8:30 match on Wednesday, while it's not the biggest match, it is the two teams that have been struggling, and it'll be super interesting to sort of watch and pan out. You obviously have Pat versus Slasher. Then the United FaZe will be a great match Wednesday night. And then Thursday, you have another EU battle. Unilad Envy, that could be a very interesting one. FaZe EG, a ton of upset potential again. I love the FaZe team. I'm just not sold yet. And then Luminosity United, probably the top two in this division. Last match on Thursday. This is going to be a lot of fun this week.
I'm going to watch all these matches and be thoroughly entertained, I think.
Yeah.
It's juicy matchups going on. I'm really interested to see how Fellow's going to work to see if Splice can make these. These are important matches, man. Each and every one. Even if they lose it, map count, very important when it comes to tiebreakers. It is double round robin, so when it comes down to the wire, it's very likely that a scenario will pop up where having a favorable map count is going to help them out. So I think Div B is going to be, from top to bottom, more balanced than Division A was, and super excited for it.
Yeah. All right. Well, Take some questions.
Couple questions. Chat, go for it. Rip some questions. What do you guys got for us?
Mm-hmm. Ooh, that flew by too, man. Everything's going by fast today.
I know. Well, not surprising this went by fast because we had a lot of stuff to talk about since we had a nice little break there. But DLC questions. Lots of DLC questions.
I mean, how do we feel about? I mean, everybody. If the map is competitive, I mean, there's no reason to not take a look at it, right? Like,
yeah.
I think issues in the past is that DLC maps just aren't good enough for competitive. There are people taking a look at this DLC collection, as there always is every DLC collection. But yeah, I think Sledgehammer, you saw AW, they're no strangers to putting out good DLC maps for competitive Call of Duty. So, that would be awesome if we were able to put another one in the rotation. I think a lot of people would enjoy that. I know I think it helps the veto system out a lot.
Yeah.
If you add a map, it could change some things up.
Completely agree with that whole sentiment there.
Yeah.
We've wanted a deep map pool in Call of Duty for a long, long time. Unfortunately, most of the time the maps in the game just aren't well suited for that. So we would love all the maps in the world to be good for competitive. I think that's obvious.
Yeah. We talked a lot about Mindfreak, but I guess to sum it up is they're getting really good.
Yeah.
They've showed a lot of potential. I think they gain confidence in themselves. That's super important. I hope they don't go home. That's the one issue, right? They go home for 2 weeks and they don't play. I don't even know if they should play, right? Like, but I think someone hit the nail. I think it was Buzzo in an interview just said that, like, when they go home, they lose and they get frustrated because they're playing the correct way, but they're losing, so they get mad and they try to fix things. And that might adjust their play style versus like Australian teams. So that could be that if they can maybe just like mentally play for like individual, like just keep warm, basically, like keep that mindset that they have going. I think they'll be great. But I would love for a time where they are in North America full time.
Some of the chat inspired a topic that I want to bring up real quick. We obviously had the footstep patch, the health regen patch.
Oh, yeah.
Come in right before Div A started. How do you think, was it a good change, I guess? Do you think the game's in a better spot now than it was before?
I mean, from the discussion, obviously pro player, like I was telling you, I have no time to play games.
Yeah.
Coming onto the show, like pros seem pretty happy about it. I think footsteps were a huge issue of really what was going on just every single game, and that seems to be fixed. As far as I understand, footsteps are like old inconspicuous, right?
Pretty close to it.
Pretty close, right? Like if you're sprinting, you're making more noise. Obviously, it helps respawn. I think Search and Destroy, you're still going to see inconspicuous in Mountain, but everyone seems happy. Health regen, I didn't see much discussion on. Maybe you would know more than me, but I think it's okay.
I think it's a huge benefit to the game. The pace just feels better. Obviously, I play like a lot of ranked and stuff like that. I know that's not pro level stuff, but it just feels better, and it feels like a lot closer than it was in previous COD, which I think people are happy about overall. It was a slight change, but I feel like the slight change had a lot of impact. So I think it was a really good patch.
Yeah, what is it, like 1 or 2 seconds? Because I noticed that when I played, you would be one shot for a very long time.
Right. Definitely a good change. Let's do like 1 or 2 more.
Mm-hmm.
I like Seabolt's question. Is it more important to veto maps that your team is bad at or veto maps that the other team is good at?
I think from what we've seen so far is veto maps that teams are good at. Yeah. It's a little different when you have teams like Rise and Echo Fox, even Optic per se, because they play a wide spread of maps. I think your only consistent veto was Hardpoint, like Forest, right? You guys didn't play any Forest. There are some teams who literally play 4 maps, all 4 hardpoints. I think Rise is one of the few teams that does it.
Right.
So I think that you might play to your strengths. But if I'm going up against a TK or a Red Reserve, I'm taking away their best map because they're undefeated on their best map, and I'm not an idiot.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I feel like it's matchup versus matchup. It really depends on that, and it depends on your personal opinion. Whatever the overwhelming opinion is on the team. Maybe certain players might like playing a certain map. Maybe the majority of players don't like playing a certain map or a certain matchup. I feel like it just depends. It's a good question though. It's a good talking point.
It definitely is. I mean, again, we've seen it evolve more and more. I think just starting with the first event, it went from we're going to play to our strengths to even like once we got to the winners bracket of the first event, that started to change, and it will continue to change. It'll change a lot
for sure.
All
right, let's do one more. One more.
Let's see. I would love to answer the most improved player since NOLA, but I haven't seen Division B yet. Yeah. From Division A, you'd probably say like TJ or Crim or Scump. I think Scump was super incredible throughout Division A. But re-ask that question after these 2 weeks, maybe even a week.
Yeah, we'll definitely touch on that after the first stint of Div B goes down.
I mean, I guess this is a pretty simple one, but Rizzo asked, what are your thoughts about new overtime rules in CTF, how it's changed the game? I don't think we've ever really talked about it.
Yeah, true.
New CTF rules, obviously, if you guys haven't noticed, if the first half is winding down to 0 seconds and a flag is pulled, it adds an extra time. It adds an extra minute. And really what that was, I mean, how many games could you go back? I can even think of so many in Black Ops 3, for example, where a team would make a final push and they would get the flag out, but the team would just run out of time.
Yeah.
And it's really to just help negate that. Those final pushes should count. I think it's been great for CTF. CTF tends to be a slower paced game types already, so anytime you can add a scoring opportunity, I'm all for it. And I think you've seen it play huge dividends, and you've seen teams play around that. As soon as sort of 5 seconds around, they're going to go for a touch. They do go for it. So I think it adds a lot of depth to CTF, and I'm a big fan of the rule.
Completely agree. It eliminates a lot of those let down moments where it's that next level of tension. There's 3 seconds left, but you still have to be ready at your base, ready for someone to be flying to get that touch in and keep things alive. So it creates way more dynamic situations. It makes CTF even more exciting, which is definitely needed at times, especially on maps like Forest, for example. So I think, people haven't really been talking about it that much, but I think that's been one of the biggest game type changes we've had in a while. That's worked out well, and I feel like that's why people aren't talking about it that much, because it works, it feels good, and people like it.
Oh, you mean when things are going well, we don't talk about it a lot? It's just when things are going bad? Okay, makes sense now.
Yeah.
No.
Pretty much.
Oh, well, all right.
Alrighty. That's it. Chat, thank you so much for hanging out.